You have to be creative, scrappy, be resourceful, willing to make the phone call, not too embarrassed to make the phone call again and again and again and again. Like you guys did. You said for 3 years you were calling,
Oh
trying
yeah.
to make sure
Oh yeah.
that you had something every 30 to 60 days. And I don't know many people who will be willing to call somebody for 3 years.
Right.
You're listening to Build It Anyway, a podcast for people who are ready to from idea to execution. We share the real stories of real people doing the real work to bring their dreams to life. So if you're ready to do the hard work, tune in.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Build It Anyway podcast. I hope you had a wonderful week. Today we have some very special guests in the house, and this is actually just a quick moment I want to share. We actually already recorded this interview, but for some reason in the process, the audio got lost. And so now we're re-recording. And so that's just one of the many things that's happening or that happens on your journey when you're trying to build something. Things could go well, but then something always happens and then you have to be able to pivot. And so it's just important to understand that when things happen, you shouldn't get too discouraged. Yes, you want to feel it in a moment, but also you just want to move forward because, as we talked about last week, pivoting is critical, is necessary, and is essential for your growth and development. And things is going to happen. So you got to keep moving anyway, because otherwise, if you stop every time something happens, you will not get very far. So I'm off my soapbox right now, but I just want to take a moment to introduce our guests. We have Mr. and Mrs. Elliott here. I mentioned them on a previous episode, By Faith Transportation. They are the owners of this company in New Jersey. It's a transportation company, and I'm going to allow them to share their story.
Yeah. So By Faith Transportation is a school transportation company, and we transport special needs students. So most
Okay.
of the students that we transport, they have some type of physical disability or mental disability, or they have like some type of behavioral problem where they can't be transported on a bus with, a load of children. So they have individual.
So do the buses look different than the
Yes,
regular
we
school bus?
use regular buses as well. So we have
Okay.
16 passenger buses and we have 7 passenger minivans because most of our children are is special needs, so they can't ride on the yellow bus. And if they can't ride on the yellow bus, they ride in the 7 passenger minivan.
Okay, so that's cool. I didn't know that. I thought that the only buses were school buses. So I remember when you guys started this company and you turned your car into a school bus. I was like, huh, I didn't know you could do that. But
Yeah,
I guess the rules and requirements are a little different when you're operating with special needs. So this is kind of like a unique segment market within the school bus transportation market itself.
that is correct.
Right? Okay, cool. So, okay, take me back to the beginning. You started this company. Did you always have a desire to be entrepreneurs? Did you always want to do a transportation company? What was like life like for you at the time when the company started? What year did it start?
That was back in 2001.
Yeah,
Oh,
2000.
wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so 2001.
Yeah.
So what was life like in 2001 for you guys?
Um, it wasn't peaches and cream,
No, I mean, what
but
was
it
it
was.
like? Like, help bring me back into that reality. Like, where were you living? You know, what was going on? How was like, were you working? Were you
Yeah,
not working? Did you always know you wanted to be entrepreneurs? Were you married? Were you not married? Did you have kids? Did you not have kids? Like, 2001,
yeah, that's 2000.
we're in 2024. You gotta
Okay,
think, for
okay.
some people, that's a
Wow, that's
long time ago.
yeah,
Yes.
that's going way back. Okay,
Mhm.
so we were married.
Mhm.
Yes, okay.
Uh,
With two
So
children.
you were married with two
Mhm.
children.
so that
Got
was
it.
about 4 years of marriage, right? Is that now 4th year in 2001?
Mhm.
Yeah, because we got married in '97. So we were 4 years of marriage. We had 2 kids. They were young, Makai and Mariah. We were living in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment in Union.
You were working.
Yeah, I was working. She wasn't. I think you had recently just left your job.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
at the
So
time,
one income, living in an apartment, married,
right.
2 kids under 5.
Yes.
Like, okay, were you newlyweds? I don't know if you say you were married for 4 years.
4 years. That was 4 years.
Okay. So not newlyweds, but we're toddlers.
Yeah.
Right. So we were, I guess, encouraged or inspired by friends. And we did always want to be entrepreneurs, but we just wasn't sure exactly what we wanted to do. I was thinking along the lines that I actually would start out with like a laundromat or something, because I felt that would be something easy to do. But it also would occupy all my time because you would have to physically be there. So talking to a friend of ours, him and his wife, Marcus and Ginger, they were encouraging us to do it because he was saying that it's not a hard business to do. And at that time, he was doing school and medical transportation. So he would always encourage us. So at that time, I was working at the inspection station. I was the manager at the inspection station for the state of New Jersey at the time. No, that was the state. That was Parsons.
Yeah, when it went private.
It went private. It went private, yeah. So I was working at the inspection station, and they were pretty much killing me. I was working over 12-hour days, and really didn't want to be there. And then one day we just decided to go and establish the business because we didn't really have any funds to hire a lawyer or anyone to assist us for that matter. So we went to Trenton on our own, and we asked the questions. They gave us the paperwork. We filled out the paperwork, and then we couldn't believe that we had set up the company. And we did make some errors along the way because we didn't really understand some things. But we did set it up. And from that point, once we set it up, our friend took us to introduce us to the, I guess, the management team in Essex County, which at that time was Sandra Stevenson and Donald Payne. Donald Payne Jr. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And God bless them because they're both deceased.
Word. I'm gonna say Donald Payne Jr. has been a godsend to Marion P too. Got my little shirt on, and to even know that he was working with the transportation company, the school transportation company. Like that's cool. Like that's good to know. That's why it's important to have people in position of in political position.
Yes.
To be able to help you. So it's election week, you guys know. Next week we gotta vote, so that's why it's important. I know a lot of people don't care about the presidential election because they feel like it's rigged anyway. I get you, but you definitely should vote at the local level because it matters. See, look at that. So cool. So they help get it. So you had a friend basically. So you went down to Trenton, and what do you mean? Like you applied? Like how? So you had to go to Trenton to apply for your business license?
Yeah.
Or did you have to go to Trenton to do something specifically for school board, like for education?
Well, this was directly linked to the state of New Jersey in regards to our business license. So we had to go and file the proper applications and in order to establish the business and get the license.
Okay, quick question. So I can't even imagine. So like I'm not going to ask like, was there not a website? Because I don't know. But I'm just like, I couldn't imagine like having to go. I have a business registered. I have a few business registered. And having to physically go to the state capitol to register the business in order for it to be a business. Okay, cool. So you guys registered the business in Trenton, and then your friend took you to Essex County to work with that transportation school district.
Because what they do is they have their own buses as well, but they do contract out a lot of work. So you would go into like a bidding process. It's a bunch of people that's coming in to bid with a bunch of different companies, and pretty much everywhere in Essex County at the time. I think it may have been more than Essex County, but because some counties would forward work that they couldn't do over to Essex County at the time, and then companies would bid on those contracts. So because we wasn't like really established, because you need bid bonds. And because we were so new as a company, it's like nobody wanted to take us on or take a chance with us.
What's a bid bond?
Okay, a bid bond is what secures you to bid. So in other words, you
Like
go in there,
insurance?
right? Exactly. It's almost like the same type of bond, like when you get somebody out of jail with a bond, like a bail bond.
Got it.
Kind of similar to that. So it's like
Okay.
you pay a percentage, but if
Okay.
you
But nobody
forfeit,
wanted to take a chance because you were so
exactly,
new.
because we were so new, yeah.
Okay.
And this industry is hard to get. Like I don't know too many companies that do it, because we went to a lot of companies and they thought that it would be easy to do, but then they end up telling us that no, we can't do that. We don't write those kind of bonds, you know. So we were very limited as far as the places we could go to get it done. But we were able to secure a place. I think they helped us with that too, because they were using that place in West Orange as well.
Yes.
So we were able to get in there. Not right away.
Not right away.
But in the beginning, the first 3 years, Donald Payne was the contact that we would get those emergency contracts. And so it seemed like every 30 to 60 days for the first 3 to 5 years, we were kind of tugging on him hard, like calling, "Hey man, we got this car, man, and we try to put some work in it." And
temporary contracts.
And so he would send us something, and he did that like all the time. We would call him, and we would give him our price and stuff, and then he would just give us work. And at the time, we didn't really know what we was doing. we learned. So we were underbidding ourselves and putting in low prices, and I'm sure he was loving it because he was getting the contracts at a low price. But as we learned, we kept moving, we kept learning, and we just had the one car, and I was still working, and she was actually doing the routes that we secured, and I was still working because I was kind of afraid to step out and just go solo in it. And I was putting a lot of work hours with Parsons, and she was taking care of the students, and so I was trying to figure out, how am I going to get out of here? How am I going to get out of this job? And then what are we going to do about medical insurance and all the other things that
kids.
And still we
Things
have
to consider.
responsibilities, because the company wasn't really bringing in that much money. Like, it was very little money. And
what would you say the company was bringing in at that time as it related to your household needs? Would you say it was like enough to cover your rent, or maybe just utilities at the time, or like some months was really good, other months was like not so good at all? Because you say you were still working, so I'm assuming the bulk of your household expenses was covered by
the job.
Yeah. However, you had a transportation company bringing in money, but I imagine that that's also cost. Like, it's a cost company as well, because you have gas, it's wear and tear in your vehicle, you have tolls, and that's just regular for a vehicle, not including, like, I don't know if this affects your insurance and what that looks like. So would you say at that time the company for the first 3 years was making enough to cover the cost of the company, or no?
Eventually, yes. But we started at the end of 2001, and those last months of the year didn't really generate a lot.
The holidays.
But our first full, I don't really remember how much we generated, to be honest, those few months. But I do know our first year, 2022, our first full year, we actually generated about 75,000.
Oh,
75,000 in the first year.
75,000 in 2024 is decent. So 75,000 in 2001 was like, you making six figures.
Yeah. So that was actually pretty good, and we were very excited about that. And the way we were moving, it was like, man, I gotta, get out. But see, the thing was, to go back to the beginning, because we started the company in August, and I actually got fired from my job in October.
Yeah, a couple months later. Yeah.
So that was really amazing, and it was actually one of the happiest days of my life, actually, because I wanted to go full time into the business, but I was afraid and didn't know how I'll be able to do it. So when I got fired, I was very excited, and I still was able to, collect unemployment for that short period, and then, and then.
All right, so let me ask a quick question. You Mrs. Elliott, you were a stay-at-home wife, and then suddenly you had to start driving for this school bus company that you guys had started,
Yes.
and your husband was working full time. What did that feel like for you and look like for you? Was that a part of the agreement?
Well, I understood because of course with me, I'm saying you can do it. Just quit the job. Just quit the job because I'm with the kids. So just quit the job. But I understood, his nervousness, his anxiety about, what if what ifs? What if we don't get work? What if this doesn't happen? So, I kind of was being patient with him and just allowing things to happen how they were supposed to happen, praying and then allowing things to happen for him. So him getting fired, he said that was the best day of his life. That was for me too, because I was dealing with the kids and then I had to run out and just constantly coming back. So that was kind of like a lot on me as well, trying to do it by myself, and I felt like this should be something we both do. We was in agreement with, but I understood, where he was at as the provider, as a man, and needing it for it to go his way for him so he can feel comfortable with really coming and going all the way in with the business. So it was a lot of pressure on me, but I did it. I did what I
So
had
it seems
to
like
do.
it was like what, for like 6 months or so, you were pretty much operating the business on your own. And then by the end of the year, because you say you started the business in August, he left in October. So by December, the end of the year, y'all have that first year done, or
Right.
half a year, not really a
Yeah.
full year,
Yeah.
half a year. And you have like 1.5 employees, kind of. And then by year two, which is really your first year one,
year.
really, where you have 4
Yeah.
quarters to look at and grow from, you were able to generate 75,000 in income. Now, would you say that was more than you were making, the same that you were making at your day job previously at Parsons?
Oh yeah, that definitely was,
Yeah.
because with Parsons I was on
Good. See, you took the lead.
45 to $50,000.
55.
55. So it was up there somewhere.
Yeah.
I
But we
mean, but after
definitely
you
did
pay
more.
taxes,
Yeah.
you-
Yeah.
after you pay taxes and expenses,
It
yeah,
feels
you
good.
make the 75, but
Yeah.
really you probably only really bringing home like 25 after
Right.
expenses and
Right.
taxes and
Right.
putting the money back into the business. Okay,
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So that I love that story because I think it's very realistic. Um, the first few months of business could look very bleak, but sometimes you have to see the growth through anyway. And as a wife, just still believing and pushing, even though it didn't look or feel the way you expected it to, I think it's like a beautiful story as well.
Yes.
Because so often, we want things to look how we want them to look.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they don't look the way we want them to look, we can get a little spicy, a
Yes.
little
Yes.
sassy.
Yes.
We try to will our way into existence. And
Yes.
I think that being able to be patient
Yes.
is can go a very long way sometimes.
Yes.
And it did. It was very beneficial. Okay, so that was the beginning of the company, and you registered your business, you started it up. You said you weren't able to get the bond deals for about 3 years. So you were able to replace your income, but that was basically just doing these quick contracts, these emergency contracts that
Yes.
the that Donald Payne Jr.'s office was giving you
Right.
or offering to you. Okay, cool. That is okay. So that's like hustling, like if you had a
Oh yeah.
waitress or something, you
Yes.
just going
Oh yeah.
table to table, table to table,
Oh
table to
yeah.
table. You don't really, you're not able to like really plan out and map out your
Right.
income from the year. But you said 3 years in, you were able to secure the bond deals,
Yes.
right? The bond. So
Yes.
how did your income change and like what did that look like? How did that change for your business?
Well, our income, even that first 3 years, and we were hustling, but every year that we've been in existence, we have always seen increase every year. So the only time we had a fall was during COVID, where nobody was doing nothing then, but then everything was able to pick back up. So as far as income has been really good, really good.
Okay.
But what was it in that beginning? but it was very challenging in that, just in those few years. But even though it was challenging, it was still better every year because it seemed like we learned something.
Mm-hmm.
We got new connections. We just started really just growing. And not really seeing it back then. But when you look back on it, it was like, wow.
It was definitely growth.
So it was very challenging in those first few years.
Did you still have one vehicle in the first 3 years before you got the bonds?
in that
How many
first
vehicles?
3 years, I know after, because we started with the car, and then after the car, I think that's when I went to the auction and got that van.
You got a van, yep.
I got a little raggedy van. So she had a car and I had a car.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
with each year, we were just growing. We had the two vehicles. Now we're both riding, and then we were able to go to dealerships and purchase newer cars. And it kept growing, kept going forward, kept moving. We had family working for us for a short time. As a matter of fact, your mom.
It was.
Yes, I know. We all work for you guys.
Yeah. So the family, everybody was kind of stepping in and doing something.
Yes.
Going through that whole process, we were all, learning.
Learning.
The whole while we were learning.
Can you tell me about the car? Because I remember this black car that we are now calling a school bus.
Yeah.
So what was this car, and how many students could you fit in it?
That was an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. I forget
It rolls off the tongue.
What year was that? It was an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, and I forget the year. But you can only get 2 or 3 students in the back because they wasn't allowed to sit in the front.
Right.
And if you needed an aide, that's where the aide was sitting. So it's technically a 5-passenger vehicle. And so, like I said, these were special needs children, so you didn't need a lot of space. So you may have 1 or 2 kids.
Right.
And even with the vans, you're only going to get 5 in there. So it always just worked out because of the type of transportation you were providing.
And how much would you say, like, each contract on average will bring in? So, like, I'm just trying to do like the math. If you had a car, you get 2 students, and because you can only bring 2 students to their destination at one time. That's one of the other caveats about like service-based businesses. Like it physically needs your presence versus like a product-based business where once the systems is set, it doesn't necessarily need your physical presence in real time anymore.
Okay. Because back then, we were still trying to learn the bidding process and the value of the service we were providing. So if we picked up a contract with 1 kid, for a 180-day school year, it probably gave us about $21,000 back then. But then once you learn the business and you get multiple, contracts, and we learn that we can get more, then of course those numbers would double. Because now okay, suddenly bidding this price, I'll bid this price, and now
then you get 2 students.
Right. So it never really mattered if it was 1 student, 2 students. It just depended on where it was going. It just depended on where it was going. So if you had, I'm just really trying to do the math here in my head. This thing here, let's see.
Well, you gave me numbers, 21,000. I'm like, so how many students can I get?
But that was like the beginning. So that's roughly about $120 a day. 5 days a week, no holidays, no weekends.
So that's the base. So it sounds good.
100 and what was it? 100 on a 180-day school year, right? 180-day school year. So those were the beginning numbers. But then once you learned that you can get more, then of course those numbers double. So now you're earning 30, 40, 50 per year, per contract, per student, depending on the situation, how far you got to travel. So all those factors, made a difference in what you would earn depending on the student, because some students were really bad. Some students you really had to pay extra attention to.
Yes.
Some students were very violent, even towards themselves. So they would hit themselves, bang their heads. They had to wear helmets and stuff like that. So all those factors came into play. Once you find out you're going in, you're bidding on these kids, now it's like, okay, we need more than just this number. We gotta
we gotta do
up
more.
our number a little bit. We gotta try to be a little more competitive instead of lowballing, pretty much, because that's what it was back then. You're lowballing to get work, Because remember, in those first 3 years, all we had was the
contract.
connection with the temporary contract. So every 30 days, you find yourself, you see the 30 days coming to an end.
Yeah.
You're praying, like, Lord, we need more contracts. Like if we don't get more contracts, we literally would have to shut the business down and quit. But God will come through for us each and every time.
I remember we prayed that, if this don't work out, if we don't get anything, then that means it's time to shut it down.
Yeah.
But every time we got to that point, God would come through. Yeah. So
that's actually interesting you say that, because when I first started my business, similarly, I lowballed, because in the beginning, you're just trying to get people to trust you, to just give you an opportunity. I'm like, you want me to drive to you? Yes, I'll drive to you. Yes, you only want to pay $100? Absolutely, no problem, no travel fee.
Right.
I'll do it all, because once you get your muscles in and you get your reps in, you learn from your experience, and then you're able to set your price. That's one thing. But then the other thing, that you were just talking about, it just slipped my mind. But you lowball and then you pray. So every week, so when I first started my company, I was kind of like in secret. Nobody knew I was doing this business on the side, but a few of my friends and people who knew me from the professional space. So everybody would send me job. Oh, here, apply to this. This looks good. Oh, I think you'll be interested in this. And I will put it in a folder, and I will say, okay, God, I'm going to apply you on Sunday. I'm applying on every week. I put stuff in the folder. I say, I'm applying on Sunday, because I don't know when my next, bill is going to come from. I know I got clients this week, or this month, but what's next month going to look like? And every Sunday will come, and I would be so booked out that I never physically had the time. I mean, I would be working on Sundays, I was working on Saturdays, I was working every day. So I never had the time to actually apply for the jobs.
Yes.
And here we are. So that's something, I think the type A personality, sometimes we set these contingency plans because we're nervous. We're like, all right, if this don't work, here's my safety net. And God be like, you don't need a safety net.
Yes.
Right.
I already told you what to do. You just have to do it. So you guys were doing it. So tell me about the company now. Where are we now? So you first started with the first black car, and then you got a van from the auction. And now how many vans and cars do you have?
I have now, what is it, 9? 9 vehicles.
Yeah.
So we don't
9 vehicles.
Okay.
So you have 9 vehicles.
We see, because the thing is too, the challenge we're having now is staffing.
Yes.
And then location to park vehicles.
So
those are the two biggest challenges that we have, because you can go and get more vehicles, but then who's going to drive them?
Yes.
So that's a big challenge for us, and that's kind of what's slowing us down now. One thing that did happen this year, because the state of New Jersey required us to have CDL license just to drive a 7-passenger vehicle.
Right. Or a 5-passenger car.
Well, the 5-passenger, 7-passenger minivan, which is just a regular car.
Right.
So they actually Governor Murphy just passed a law saying that we don't need CDL license anymore to operate a school vehicle, a small 7-passenger school vehicle. So that's good for us, because now we can just get regular drivers who would need to obtain a school bus certificate, which is much easier than
trying to get the CDL.
Going through the whole CDL
process,
So we're still trying to figure out how that works, because we just found out about it just recently. And so once we get that locked in, as far as knowing how that works, I think that would help us a lot with hiring people and bringing more people in. So that's going to assist us a whole lot. So I think like within the next year or two, it'll be very different. The fleet size and with our staffing and everything. I'm really believing that everything would at least double within the next year or two. But it's just,
that just stopped my heart, because more. I know everybody thinks growth sounds good, but like double means more employees, and more employees mean more people to manage, and more people to manage means more personality, and more personality.
Yeah, because it's very challenging, because you get some people come in and they say, okay, because we just recently had an experience where we hired a driver, and he worked with us. He stayed with us for about 5 weeks. And next thing you know, he said he was leaving, going back to another company. But in the beginning, he was okay. And that's part of the challenge, because people, they'll come in and they'll work for you. And then if they get another offer, a higher offer from another company, they'll go with that offer. You know, because at first he was saying he was comfortable working for us. The pickup location, the vehicle is very convenient because we're in Union. He lived in Union, and that's what he wanted. The other location was in another city, and didn't really have any parking. He was getting tickets every day. This was his complaint. But kind of found out that I guess it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the thing, just trying to find people, because the people we have now, they're very committed to us. They're very faithful. They love working with us. You know, so it's just a matter of God sending us the right people.
To fit into the culture.
Fit into
Because
our culture,
when you know, as a small business, first of all, it's hard to find like your people. So
Right.
how has hiring been? Like, was it always easy for you to find the good people that you have, or did you go through some turnover to get to the core group that you have now?
The people we have now are very, very good. And let me say that they're more mature. They're not, they're not young, in their 30s or 40s. They're very mature. And so they're very reliable and responsible. And they've been with us for a while. And the way we found them, it's been a lot of word of mouth. Word of mouth, somebody saying something and somebody bringing somebody in. And it's just been that way, you know? And so that's pretty much how it's been for us. I mean, we haven't really advertised anything. Even the last driver that just left, he kind of came in through one of our other drivers. Right. You know, he actually came to our lot and saw our driver and asked him about the hiring process. And then we were able to point him to the website, and then he filled out the application. And next thing you know, a couple of days after we found out everything was good with him, we brought him in. You know, because of course you got to check the license and all that stuff.
It's mostly the word of mouth.
Yeah,
I don't think we've advertised in a few years.
No.
Yeah. I find that every time we did advertise, we got people that come in that wasn't serious.
Yeah.
You know.
And the first thing they want to know is how much you pay.
How much is it? And here's the thing, like I'm a very, very transparent person. Like I'm gonna tell you how much it is up front because I'm not gonna waste your time and I don't want you to waste my time.
Yes.
However, with that being said, I know that I pay well. So like my expectations are also very high.
Right.
For me, my issue is finding people who are committed to working.
Right.
Because so many people are just like, well, I showed up. I deserve to get paid. And I'm like, well, yes, but working is not showing up. Working is working. Like, you gotta like do something.
Right.
Like you can't just show up and say, okay, I'm here. I clocked in. Where's my check? It's like, okay, but what did you produce today?
Right.
Like what did you do? So finding staff is definitely a small business challenge, and I'm very interested to know like how you guys have been able to solve it. But you say you work with a more mature group of individuals, which I guess makes sense because to drop kids off at school, they need to have like flexibility in their schedule.
Right.
So having people who are retired,
yes,
they have more flexibility to be able to do that. They come in, make a little bit of money, and they kind of go about their day.
Exactly.
And they're more mature.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about a lot of the other things that you would have to worry about.
Yes.
Okay, so everything's going good. You did talk about some of the challenges with hiring. What was one mistake you made in your business that you like, I can't believe I did that?
Do I want to talk about this?
Well, pick one that you want to talk about.
Okay, I would say in the beginning, maybe within that first few years, because this was with Essex County. We had a situation with a student where he was like one of these kids that was acting like he was part of a gang, acting like he was tough. And oh God. Okay. And my wife was dropping him off one day, and he stole her phone. So it kind of really upset me, I would say. So one day when I went to pick him up, I pulled over into a parking lot, and I asked him about the phone. And he was acting all tough, like, I ain't got no phone. So I started searching him. as if he had the phone. And he
Mhm.
didn't have the phone. So what I did was I took his stuff. So I kind of went a little hood. Okay.
We
I
had to
took
get creative in how
I
we
took
protect our assets.
exactly. So I took his stuff. I took his shoes. I took his backpack. I took his coat, and then I dropped him off at school with no shoes. Right.
Hilarious.
So it's like born and raised in North. These things come out of you. No. Uh, but so I sent them to the school, and I wasn't really thinking. It was like you see someone on the street, they do something to your family. It's like you just do what you have to do to try to regain it. So I dropped them off at the school, and I left the school with his stuff. So I got a call from Donald Payne because, of course, they called the district. And Donald Payne called me. He said, "Curtis, are you crazy?" And he was laughing. He was cracking up laughing. He said, "Curtis, are you crazy?" He said, "Curtis, okay, now being serious, Curtis, this thing could have turned into something crazy because this kid could have said you assaulted him, you touched
Yes.
him, and now that's the end of your business." But the thing about it is, I wasn't thinking about that. These are the early stages, and
Mhm.
so what happened was, um, when the parents found out, the thing that saved me was his parents were pastors, and they were already having issues with him. So his father said, "Good for him," right?
Mm.
So, so that's kind of what saved me in that situation because, like, nobody, of course, nobody's personal charges, nothing's going on.
No, the parents was
And
trying to
then,
teach him a lesson.
exactly. And then when the parents found out what happened, I guess they started watching him. And the mother busted in his room that night, and he was in there with the phone. So she took the phone from him, called us over to the house. When she called us over to the house, she made him give us back the phone and apologize. So it kind of worked out for us. But that's one thing that I did that I felt like, I should have never done that. I should, because I never thought about the consequences. All I thought about was, how you gonna steal my wife's phone?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you don't
And we're
steal,
doing something for you.
right?
Now
So that
that is
was
actually
kind
a
of
funny story.
that's kind of crazy.
So here's the thing. I wasn't sure if I was gonna keep the story in because I'm always gonna protect the family first.
Right.
But Donald Payne Jr. and how it ended recovered. So
Right. Right. Right.
I think
Right.
it's a good testament because it's authentic. We make mistakes in
Exactly.
business
Exactly.
a lot and
Exactly.
more often than people probably would like to acknowledge or
Right.
admit honestly. I can think about a lot of mistakes I personally made that I'm like, now, girl, you know better. You should not
Right.
have done that.
Right.
But we're human and
Right.
we make
Yeah.
mistakes, and that's why God's grace is sufficient.
Yes.
But you also, you try to do the right thing as much
Yes.
as
Right. Yes.
possible
Yeah.
so that you have more good that you're putting out
Yeah.
than bad, right? It was
That's
a
right.
mistake. It's not a reflection of your character. No
Right.
one person should be judged by a decision that they make
Right.
in one moment.
Yeah.
You should be judged by a decision that you make over the course of your life. And
Yeah.
I would say over the course of you guys' lives, you had definitely been very influential, very inspirational in building out this business. It was like my first example of like entrepreneurship that I saw, and really like the grittiness of it all. Because y'all calling it a school bus, but I thought it was a car. And then you had to like convert your car into something um that can pass inspection
Right.
for a school bus,
Right.
right? And then you also had to build relationships with the local government, and you
Right.
had to be willing to call and reach out to them regularly and consistently.
Right.
So many people say they want to start a business and then they don't get contracts, and then they're like, okay, well, I didn't get the contract, so I need to shut down. And
Right.
no, or you need to go build the relationship that you need to have so that you can
Exactly.
get some food off the table.
Right.
You may not be able to get the contract, but having people think about you, mention your name in rooms, particularly when you are a constituent of their city.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, you got to use your resources, use your
Yes.
network
It means a lot.
to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you did that and they called him and he called you, I'm sure helped to de-escalate the situation.
Exactly.
And that's some of the small things that I think that people and sometimes politicians do that they don't always get credit for.
Right.
Right. some of them. They
Yeah.
do some good things
Yes.
that they don't always get credit for.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we talked about that. We talked about one. That was a funny thing. I thought we were going to talk about the C Corp. I
Right.
was setting you up for a C Corp conversation. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
shared
That the
something.
C corp thing wasn't as bad as that. And
Yeah.
I've
One in the
had
beginning.
we've had situations after that, but we're better able to handle them. So now, kind of what we do is we follow procedures. We write students up. We report them to the schools, and let them know what the students are doing on the bus. 2 students actually just got kicked out of school because we wrote them up because of their behavior on the bus.
Yeah.
So you just have to follow the rules and follow the procedures and not look at these kids like you don't have to go hood
Yeah.
with these kids.
Yeah.
You just kind of try to understand them, be patient with them, and then you're able to better understand. But that, like I said, that was early on, and I was still like, not
You
really.
were still young.
Yeah.
You weren't far removed
Oh, yeah.
from the hood. So
So
sometimes
now
we
it's like
forget.
I know how to ignore. I pray more for people, and
Yeah.
I'm in more control. Because being in this position and you're driving on the roads, you have to practice, patience and control, and because
Definitely.
there's a lot of road rage and
Yeah.
people do a lot of crazy stuff because of a very small incident, and then you find yourself thinking about it from a jail cell. And I'm not trying to go there.
That's right.
No,
So,
no.
Not worth it.
yeah, I
We
see
did
people
not.
getting
We
crazy.
listen. We build businesses to stay
Yes,
out of
Mhm.
trouble.
yeah,
Okay.
That's
Most of us got into business or entrepreneurship because we didn't want nobody telling us what to do.
right.
Mhm.
And so being in the jail cell is not
That's not.
going to
No,
work.
no,
No.
no.
It's not going to work. And then when you're and it's challenging when you're a service facing, like when you're a service based business, because
Mhm.
people engaging with people can be challenging. They
Oh
can
yeah,
try you.
Mhm.
And entrepreneurship is already an up and down journey.
Right.
So if somebody try you or, try to push you on the wrong day, it can really deter life
Yeah.
for
yeah,
you
yes,
as you intended.
yeah.
So
Hey guys, thank you for listening to the Build It Anyway podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard and you want to hear more from me, please head over to builditanywaypodcast.com to join our lovely community. You can also join our Facebook community, Build It Anyway Podcast. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, please remember to leave a review, to like, and to follow the show to stay up to date what we're doing. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.